All right, somebody asked me to record this, which is, I thought we were going to have about 60 people, but I'm trying to give it just a couple of minutes extra in case people got the time zones wrong. But if not, we'll proceed
Right.
anyway. Um,
Hello, it was me that asked for the recording. I think it's going to be useful. We need to go back to it when we are actually doing something. That's why I suggested that.
yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
All right, well, we've gone an extra 5 minutes if my clock is right, waiting. I sent invites out to probably 30, 40 people, but I also know that people get busy in their stores and things
That's
happen, and
true.
maybe people have forgotten. All right, so um, all right, so I want to start. And you'll have to pardon me because I am new to this as well, and I need to learn heck what I'm doing because I have never conducted one of these. I did a presentation at convention, and I've done presentations locally, but I've never done one on this.
Okay, so you
All right.
need to go to the share button at the bottom,
Yeah.
the arrow on
Right.
the screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it is. Yeah, you're right. All right.
Choose the screen that you want to share with everyone, and we will be able to
There
see
you
it.
go.
Great.
All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is just kind of the basics. Why do we want to get into print? Why do you want to build your print business? And as I said, print margins are typically 70 to 80%, which means that every print dollar is worth two shipping dollars. Our profit centers are in decline from shipping volumes to drop off commissions, and print revenue is the one thing that's under your control. Print revenue will naturally grow. Once you earn a customer's business, they will likely repeat. And also, a lot of people do not see us for print because they don't know we do it. And the more you do, the more the word will spread and the more business will naturally come to you. I will tell you, when I first started doing print, I was ecstatic if I did $500 in a month. That was 6 years ago. We now do $15,000 a month. And we print almost everything
Nice.
in-house. Although that's not a necessity, you don't have to print in-house, but we've invested a lot in equipment to help grow that business. But nobody needs to do that initially. So what do you need to get started? Adobe Creative Cloud. It's the one tool that will pay for itself. And an understanding of how to deal with different file types and how to manipulate them, an understanding of paper types and what and when to use what equipment and training do I need? You already have everything you need. Adobe has tons of free lessons. If you don't know how to do something, or you can just type it in their help files. It will give you demos. Um, it will allow. It will. Oh, let me see. Make sure. Oh, I thought maybe somebody else was joining. I got to pay attention if somebody else is. All right. I got to pay attention when somebody else comes on so I can admit them in. Um, so there's lots of times there are things that I do not know how to do. Um, and I will go into the help files just under in Photoshop and tell it what I want to do. It will bring up a video lesson for me. It will guide me step by step. It will give me sample files to work on. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm to the point where I have to do things multiple times before it starts to click in my head. And that gives me the tools to do that. You can outsource most any project to 4over or stores around you that have print capabilities. Corporate identified the centers that have high volume print, and they put a list on the hub of which things they can do. So to give you a reference of who you can send stuff out to or ask, um, I do print for some of the stores around me. I typically, the way I price it is, and it's going to be up to each store, but I take the recommended pricing book and I subtract 40% off of that price. so that the store that's sending me something has a margin to make it worth their time and effort to do it. Um, and lastly, I say I do recommend eventually getting a wide format printer if you don't have one. It will pay for itself quickly and has the highest margin of any print you can do. Um, most of the printers have accounting software that go with them, and you can track, you can put where you're paying for your substrates and your inks in. It will calculate how much you use and tell you how much your cost is. There are many times that I can print something for $1.50 on my cost. Now that doesn't include my time, and I can sell that same item for $35 or $40 using the recommended print price book. So that's why I'm so high on the wide format. And it's also something that customers just can't get anywhere. How much do I charge? The hub has a recommended pricing book, as I mentioned, and that's what I use. And my margins typically, when I look in the financial reports, I see that there is I run right around 78% margin on my print throughout the year, taking all of my costs and everything into account. All right, just checking to make sure that nobody's there. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to get into was,
Can I ask a question, please?
sure.
So you said you use the recommended pricing book.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a little bit too expensive to compete with my area.
Well, you can adjust it, but the one thing that I'm going to tell you right now is print is not about price. We think it is, and we get scared of that, and I completely understand. We get scared because they can go to Vistaprint and all these different places, but there's one thing that we can do for them that they're not likely to get anywhere else, and that is speed of service. We do most everything same day for customers.
Right.
And when they're going to Staples or FedEx office or any of these places, they're going to tell them 3 to 5 days. And if they want it faster, it's going to be an upcharge.
Right.
The other thing is that there's something wrong with their file. They are not going to tell them. They're just going to print it and say, well, that's what you sent me. Where we work with the customers, and if a print job is going to look like garbage, I tell them right up front. But when I tell them, when they say, how soon can I get that? And when I say in a couple of hours, they don't look anywhere else any longer. So, I mean, there's ways to overcome the pricing is what I'm trying to tell you, is
Right.
that if you focus on it and you're afraid of it, then you'll undersell yourself more often than you realize. Because they don't, if it's a kind of person that wants to compare me to everybody else, then, that's probably not my customer, because there's always somebody that will do it cheaper. It's kind of like what car dealers have to deal with. Well, I got this price over here. And then as soon as you give me your price, then I'm going to take that somewhere else and say, well, I got this price over here. And I like to joke, if a customer calls me up and says, how much is a black and white copy? I want to say $5. Because if they're that cheap, then they're not my customer. And those are the kind of people that I'm going to waste 30 minutes on to make $2. And they're just not worth my time. So I wouldn't be afraid of it. You can always go down on your pricing, but and you may lose some, but I don't think you're going to lose as many as you can if you project confidence with them, and you get your staff trained to project that confidence to the customer. That's what they're looking for. They want to know that you know what you're doing and that you're going to take care of it. Print for most businesses is something that they have to do. Not something they want to do. So by you handling the print for them, and once you build their confidence, like I said, they'll keep coming back. You're solving a problem for them. You're taking it off of their plate. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to mess with it. And once they trust you, they're just going to send it to you, and that's going to be that. You don't don't, it's a common thing that all of us do. I'm not picking on you, because we all do that. We get afraid that we're going to lose the sale because of price. And um, I'm I'm here to tell you that it doesn't happen as often as you think. Um, it's more about the level of service that you can give them that nobody else is going to give them. And that will come with confidence and time. And I mean, I have a restaurant group that we print for. They have what, 14 different restaurants. They don't even ask me price. They just send me projects and ask me to do it. They have me printing. They have a restaurants in Denver and Nashville and Chicago, and they even have me do print for those facilities and send it to them via UPS, ship it to them, rather than dealing with a local printer. They have me do it. And I know that's costing them a heck of a lot more to have me ship it, because sometimes I have to do it second day air for them. But they don't balk because I'm solving a problem for them and something that they don't want to deal with. They want to worry about promotion of their restaurant. They want to worry about sales in their restaurant. They want to worry about having enough people in the kitchen to wash dishes. They don't want to worry about if something's going to be printed correctly and what it costs. And they trust me, and that comes with time. All right, I don't want to keep going forever. So let's go into, did all of you, I gave you kind of a guide to different file formats. Did everybody have a chance to look at that?
Mm-hmm.
So almost all customers do not understand print or what file types are. So that Adobe sheet is a good example for you to understand the different types of files. Most customers are going to give us, as a general rule, low resolution JPEGs. And they're going to want us to work miracles with it. Now, and we've all seen this. They give us something off the web that's a very tiny file, low resolution, that was designed to look good on a phone screen, but when it comes to print, it doesn't look that good. So Adobe has come out with a lot of new tools in AI to help us fix those images and to do different things with them. So let me open up Photoshop here. And we're going to start with how to determine if an image is printable or not and what it's going to look like. Let me go back down here to my bottom screen. Where are you?
I lost him.
All right, I don't want that disabled. Nope, I don't want that. Share. And so where's Photoshop? Right here. All right, we don't want that picture. All right. So let's open up, I downloaded some examples. Where did you go? There we go. What am I doing that for? I didn't ask for any of that stuff. All right. So this is why do I even have that? All right. So this is a typical example. This gentleman came in a couple of days ago. He wanted us to take this image and make it into an 8x10. So we scanned it from a 4x6 photo. Oh, so the other thing I will tell you is that customers do not understand perspective. They don't understand that I cannot make a square into a rectangle without changing something. We all deal with that. And so what we typically do, we have a big computer screen and we show them. And once you show them, then they do understand. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to determine print resolution and screen resolution. So let's say we just simply go into image size. And this is screen resolution is 72 DPI, right? Or pixels per inch. Print resolution is 300. So if I try to print something on my Konica or my Ricoh or Xerox, if it's low resolution and set at 72, it's going to shrink it automatically because it will not print 72 pixels per inch. It only prints 300. So if I want to know the resolution of something, now this is going to be higher because we scanned it. I just simply uncheck my resample box here, change my resolution to 300. It isn't changing anything about the image, but it now tells me what my print resolution is. Okay. In this case, it would be 13 inches, 13.4 by 10.8. All right. Let's pull up. Don't be slow. All right. So let's open another image. So this is a low resolution image. If I change my print resolution to 300, I'm now at 1.3 inches by 0.93 inches. That's my print resolution. Okay. If I just normally went through here and tried and told it to make it bigger without doing anything else, it's not going to do a very good job with that. So I can turn around and let's go into some of the new features. This is called Nero filters. It's AI generated filters. And this is in the later versions of Adobe Photoshop and Creative Cloud. I can go into here, and the first thing I'm going to do is something really simple with a bad image. I am going to go into photo restoration. Now, this is going to use AI tools, and there's some adjustments and stuff over here. And it's going to look at that image. Now, can you guys see the difference in that?
Oh, yeah.
So now all of a sudden, now sometimes it can be a little harsh, so I may have to back off on my sliders over here on how much I want it to. I can simply tell it, okay. All right, so I need to hide this so I can see. All right. Where happened to my history window? View. Or window, I'm sorry. History, okay. So that was original. And now this is when I put my filters on.
Wow.
All right. Now, that was all done with AI. Now I can simply, if I want to make this larger, and let's say I want to make this into 8. Oh, I got to hit resample. Sorry, I had it on the other one. Now I turned around and I took a low resolution image. I enlarged it a lot. And now I've got something that's acceptable for print. Right? That's one of the tools. There's also another tool in here. Let's go back into here. Another tool I will use frequently, because photo restoration works on photos, but there's other types of like artwork and stuff like that, business cards, things like that, that we want to enlarge. So another filter under the Nero filters that we can use And there's all kinds of cool things. If you want to get your staff involved in print, let them play around with this stuff. I could turn around and put a totally different background. I could take a picture of you, remove the background, and put you on a beach in Hawaii, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. That's how advanced this stuff has become. So, but we have another tool in here called Super Zoom. And here's a great one here, JPEG's artifact removal. Is anybody aware what JPEG artifacts are?
No, I'm not.
So what happens is when we have a low resolution image that's in a JPEG format, which is highly compressed to make it easy for file storage. It's meant for file storage. But when we go to blow it up, it's going to leave a bunch of weird things like little blocks of colors and little squares and stuff around the image that looks noisy and it doesn't look very good. So that's what we call JPEG artifacts. So if somebody gives us a low resolution image, we can go in and this has a narrow AI filter that will help us remove some of that. Okay. So we have another one called Super Zoom. This will allow us also to enhance image, remove JPEG artifacts, but we just simply click on how much bigger, let's say we want this. Now remember that was like an inch or so. I'm going to tell it to be 7 times bigger. I don't need to enhance the details. Oh, and it already completed it. So, and it automatically, it does a much better job of blowing up an image than we can with the simple tools like using the built-in image size tools. Okay. So now this image, if I look at my new size after taking it through Super Zoom, now it's 6.51 by 9.1, and I didn't lose anything in that process. And now I can use regular tools to blow it up larger. All right. Enough of pictures of me.
Hey, Mike, the very first one of that neural filter, which one was that one again when you first put it in? It's under the neural.
Photo restoration.
Photo restoration, okay.
All right, so here's a good example of what I say, even though this is still a pretty grainy, noisy picture, and it's not going to print super good. So I can do the same thing with this. I can simply take it into narrow filters and let's see how well it cleans it up. Photo restoration. And by the way, I've used this a lot I have a retired Marine that sent me he had just a scan of a picture of him and an award he got. And it was the strangest thing. He was making a 24 by 36 foam core sign for his own funeral, and he wasn't even sick. It's got a few scratches in it. You start playing around with this thing, and it does just amazing things for cleaning up images. Photos, not so much artwork. And this thing, it was just looked horrible. And another store had sent them over to me, and I went in and made it look like the picture was taken yesterday, just using these AI tools, and just made an absolutely well-deserved, respected type of image for them. All right. See, it even removed a little scratch that was up there.
Yep.
Okay. So there's one thing I always do. This leaves some of those things so it can go in reverse. So I always flatten my image so that all of those effects are there. So let's look at, I want to remove something. So we have over here, this is called our healing brush. Looks like a Band-Aid. And they have a little tool over here called Remove Tool. And I'm going to set my size a little bit larger. No, a little bit larger. And I'm going to just paint over this number here. Oh. And now it's gone. It's smart enough to replicate the background in that and know what should be there, and it replaces it. All right. So now let's see what I told. We already looked at the size of this, but let's say in this case, he wanted this to be an 8x10. I use a different program here to make it easier called Blow Up 3. It's just an optional plugin that I think I paid $60 for, but it makes it fast and easy. So I can tell it to up and resize. So if I say 8, and then I want to make it by 10, and this is what I would show a customer. If you want me to make it an 8x10, this is what's going to happen. Okay, now I've made that image into an 8x10. It's still a little bit noisy, but I don't know that I'm going to get it that much better than what it already is. That's one way to solve it. Okay. Again, I know I'm going through this fast, but there are a ton of tutorials on this. All right, so let's open another file. Typically, let's open a business card. And remember I said customers typically, this is very typical. They do not give us an image that has bleed. This card, this is an easy one, so it's probably not a really good test. But let's see if I've got another one. All right, so let's go basically to add bleed. I wanted to be able to show you how it will replicate. So we can simply go into canvas size. So this is, I should show you again, image size is a very typical 3.5 by 2 inches. It has 0 bleed on it, right? I can go into image, canvas size, and bleed is 0.25 or 6 millimeters. Either way works. And now it's going to add the extra area here around the card. Now I can turn around. I'm going to take my magic wand. I'm going to select the transparent area. Select, modify, expand. I'm going to do just like 3 pixels. And then if you look down here, there's another option that comes up that says generative fill. Now, what generative fill is going to do is look at what's there, and I can either tell it, I can type here if I wanted to put something else in. That's how I could do a background, or I can just hit generate. And it is going to match perfectly pretty much everything that I have right there. And now I've my new image size has bleed on it. Okay, now I can do that with a more complicated Adobe Express enables you to be a creator, and it does all of the work for you. So here's a file. Let's see what size this is. Image size. Again, uncheck resample, change my resolution to 300. This is a 5x7 card. So this is actually something that my staff did, playing around. This is actually one of my employees' dogs, and I see that they were goofing around on this. So Again, if I go into image canvas size, I'm going to add bleed to it. I can highlight that new area, select, modify, expand 3 pixels, generative fill, generate. Now, do you see how it expanded all of those areas and you can't even really tell a difference? It made, and I'll, before, it just naturally figured it out. So that's how we can very easily add bleed to customer files.
So Mike,
So
I'm going to stop you for a second. So when you went in and did that, I'm looking at the steps here to add the bleed. I can see how you added the bleed going into the image size, canvas size, and the bleed. But then you hit that magic wand, right? Once
I selected the area that I wanted to do. I don't know why my history keeps disappearing, but so I selected the area to tell it where to add the bleed. Now, if this was solid white, I could also do it another way. I can do this. Sometimes you have to do it a step at a time, but I want you guys to play around. So I can just, these are called marching ants, which is just a selection. And I can tell it, because sometimes I can select the whole area and it won't get it. And I can tell it to generative fill just that area.
I've been seeing that. I was wondering what that generative fill is for. I see it now, what you're talking about. That's what I was getting at.
And it did the same thing. Okay. But some images, it'll get confused, and that's what you have to do.
Gotcha.
But, all right, so let's go in how we can use that another way. Here's our original 5x7, and let's say that they wanted this to be a 4x6. You got to show them how to open it. So if I turn around and I'm going to make this, and we all know how this works. If I make this 4 inches wide, it then becomes 5.6 inches tall. But the customer wanted they wanted a 4x6, but I can't make it into a 4x6 natural. So again, I can go into canvas size, and I'm going to say, all right, make this 6 inches tall. Oh, I need to flatten it first. Oh, that's fine. Canvas size, so I just changed my height to 6 inches, and now it's going to make an equal amount of extra space. I can use the exact same tool where I can go in here and highlight this.
Big time. Real pace.
And now by using those AI tools, I've turned around and took an image that was originally 5x7 and I've made it into a 4x6. I just used a little bit of AI to expand the additional area that was blank. And I've totally recreated it. Now, I always run that by the customer first to make sure they know what it's going to look like and get their approval. But I don't ever have anybody that is not happy with that.
Hey, Mike, I'm full of questions, obviously. So based on that, because I've been working with these 5x7s, business cards a lot, and this information is very helpful. The one thing that I do have a question on is, let's say I have a business card that, so we do a lot of 10 ups. I call it a 10 up, I guess, on an 8x10 when I run it through the deal, through the cutter. So you take that one business card. My question is, how are you getting it to a 10 up? Because I've been making a grid in Photoshop and I feel like I'm doing it the hard way.
You are. So, especially since you have a Duplo, first of all, you should not be printing on 8.5 by 11 because you're paying extra click charges because you're going to run more copies. So your Duplo should print 24 cards up with on a 12 by 18.
So I have a small Duplo. It's not that big Duplo.
Oh, it's not big. All right.
Yeah,
I thought it was a
smaller Duplo C229. It does 4x6s, 4x6s, 5x7s, business cards, and the business cards almost have to be on the 8x10. I think I might be able to put 11 by 17 through there. I can't remember. There's an option for that, but you have to make sure each tray. So it's not that expensive high Duplo.
Then what you would do is you would have to get the Duplo templates that will lay it out to give you a grid for you, and then you can do them that way. So normally what I would do, because I recommend always for your printer, I mean for your Fiery, to spend the money to get Fiery Impose. Fiery Impose is an add-in that will do all of the layout for you. You just tell it what you want, and it figures it all out, and it places it evenly and perfectly the way it needs to be. So if you want to make a booklet, it will lay it out for you. It will lay out calendars. It'll duplex them. It does all of the layout work for you because so it's even got a feature that says, like, for example, best fit for gang up repeat. And you tell it what paper size you're going to use, and then it will figure out the most efficient way to lay that out to get the most number of units on each sheet that you're printing, and then tell you how many sheets you're going to need to do that. Now, but that's more relevant when you're going to do your own cutting, when you have like a Duplo that or cards and you're doing gang up work, to be able to lay it all out efficiently. You can Impose, you can get as a 30-day trial. You can get it from Ricoh, Konica, any of them. You can download that as a trial for yourself oh, wait a minute. I just noticed there was questions, but that's what I use to lay it all out. But if you're sending it out and not doing it in-house, the key is just getting your print ready file so that you can upload that to 4over or send to another store, whatever you're going to do, and then they'll do the rest.
Yeah.
They'll do it for you.
Yeah, our little Duplo just doesn't, it like you said, it's off the grid. You can think you put the perfect piece of paper through there and it's off. So you have to play with it, scoot it over, once you get a template made, you're good.
Right. Well, that's why I'm saying if you have bleed and then you have your cutters, I don't know what you have as far as cutting ability goes. So the problem with most small business card cutters is they only have 3 cutting wheels. And so if it only has 3 cutting wheels, it doesn't have enough cutting wheels to be able to cut bleed. Because to be able to cut bleed on business cards, you need 5 cutting wheels. I had one of the inexpensive ones that were that corporate had me buy when I opened the store, and I got so dang frustrated I could never get business cards to work right. I had given up. I threw my hands up in the air. I thought I tried everything, and I'd run a sheet through, and I'd get a third of them were good and 2/3 of them were bad. And I tried loading them onto the templates. I tried doing everything I could. I could never get it right. And that's what actually encouraged me to buy my first Duplo. I will tell you that my first Duplo was used. It was an older version that hadn't been produced in 6 or 7 years. It was refurbished. I bought it on eBay um, for like, I think $3,000. But it worked perfectly. It did. And it had its own wizard that lined all that stuff up for me once I told it, what I need, what I wanted it to do, and it would save all of those templates for me. So right now, my printer and the Duplo interface with each other, and I can send print jobs or something new if I haven't done it before. I can lay it out in their wizard. It figures it all out for me. And then it will transfer that file, that cut program to the Duplo. And then I just walk over and load the printed stock in, and it does everything for me. So somebody can walk into my store, and if they have a print ready file for business cards, I can have them out of my store with 500 business cards in 10 minutes. Because of all those pre-programmed setup files or templates where I just load one of the files in there, it loads them all out for me in Impose, lines it up for the Duplo, and then I print them, walk over to the cutter, tell it that I'm doing business cards 24 up, and it just boom out and just cuts them in and out. For a lot of people, until you get comfortable with this, I wouldn't suggest going out and buying a brand new Duplo yet. You got to build a little bit of the business first, and that's why I suggested, outsourcing business cards. If the customer can wait, I mean, 4over can do 500 business cards for $11. Your time's worth more than that. The only stuff we like to do really a lot of in-house, well, sometimes I do it anyway because I want to give it to the customer right away. Speed is what can differentiate me from anybody else, the ability to do it quickly and give it to the customer while they wait in many cases. But that's taken a while to get to that point, and that's not what I'm advocating here. I just want to get everybody to get their feet wet initially and learn how to do this. Somebody asked about where do I find the list of file types. I just searched for, I put a link on the Facebook page, but I also, I just simply searched for Adobe file types, and it gave me that list that I put up. Next question, do I do everything in Photoshop, or do you design in something else then fix in Photoshop? If I'm going to do design work, sometimes I do it in Photoshop. I'm moving more towards Adobe Express because Adobe Express, when you have your Creative Cloud subscription, Adobe Express has built-in pre-made templates, and you can just type in and tell it what you want, and it'll start giving you ideas. It'll give you templates that you can alter. Adobe Express is eventually going to put most graphic designers out of business because it can do it all for you. The biggest thing is, what is the customer happy with? Adobe Express, in my opinion, is better than Canva because of the artificial intelligence tools. And I would avoid Canva because do you know who just bought Canva? FedEx Office. So they bought Canva so that print jobs start going directly to FedEx stores. So Canva is now a bad word in my opinion because I don't want to encourage customers to use it and then send their print job to FedEx Office because it's going to push them to send the print job directly to them. But like I said, corporate has, and there's a lot of free tutorials to teach you how to use Adobe Express. And once you start using it, you will absolutely fall in love with it. There are a lot of things that I used to send out to a graphic artist that now we do ourselves in Adobe Express. And it's much faster than trying to figure out how to put all the elements together in Photoshop. So Photoshop, I don't do much design on anymore. I hope that answers the question.
Which Duplo do you use right now?
I have a 618. Before I had a 615, which is several years old. The 616 is almost the same. A 616, there's resellers. I get emails from them all the time that actually buy these machines because people will lease them. In many cases, they have hardly any use on them at all, and they resell them, and you can buy one for probably 30 to 40% less than what a new one would cost you. If you
Right.
start to get into buy equipment, you will find that if you can afford to, it's always better to buy your equipment outright rather than lease because you are going to pay. So a 618 right now, I will tell you that I paid 21,000 for my 618, but that was in 2019, and I paid cash for it. If you were to get a new 618 now, if you just bought one cash, a new 618 would cost you over $30,000. If you lease one, you're going to pay closer. By the time they add all the fees on for leasing, you're going to pay over $50,000 for that machine.
Right. I have a 615. I think it's a little bit limited on the number of rollers it has and the cutters, so it makes it
Yeah,
hard.
it's a little bit harder. So there's some things like if you want to do business cards that are 24 up on that, you have to print it on a 12 by 18 and then cut it in half and then feed the halves through. Um, so you're right, it is limited that way. But as far as creasing goes and everything else, there's very little that the 618 can do that the 615 couldn't. The only thing that I have differently is I can link directly to the machine on the 618 through the Fiery so that I can transfer cut file programs directly to the Duplo instead of having to go over to the machine and do it in the Wizard or doing it on a computer and then transferring it to the machine. It just takes one step out of it. But the 615 will still do probably 90% or more of what you want to do already. From 4x6s to 5x7s to it's just using the Wizard program, and it's still a very, very capable machine. All right, we've been going for an hour now. I want to be respectful. Any other questions?
Mike, this has been very helpful. Really appreciate it, man.
Well, like I said, the idea is everybody, hopefully the smart owners are going to get their print going to help make up for some of the losses. There's one guy on the Facebook group that's saying that he's got inside knowledge that we're going to take another cut on Amazon next year, which would not surprise me. The more we can get things under our control revenue wise, the better off we'll all be. And my goal is strictly to help the network grow and be strong and get more people into print as possible to help strengthen all of us. If you have any more questions, I'll feel free to email me and I'll try to help anybody I can. I don't want to do your print. I don't want to design your print. I don't want to do these things for you. My goal is to help you learn how to do it yourself, to make your center and your business stronger.
Can you put your email in the chat, please?
Sure. And put on the Facebook group, they didn't know what they missed.
That's true.
I'm surprised
Michael,
at
I
the
have a
turnout.
question.
Sure.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, like, printing is one thing, but I mean, do you have any tips to how to get the print orders? I mean, what can we do for the advertisement or something?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Um,
I
how to
How
think
to
get the
get the,
business?
yeah,
marketing
how
print
to get the print orders? I mean,
Right.
what
How do you
type
get
of,
it?
yeah.
So the first thing you start to do is build credibility. So we have on our print wall in the store, we have examples of local businesses that we've printed for. Now, at
Mhm.
first, I just used stuff off the Marketing Help Center, or that I downloaded some of the print different things and I put samples up. One of the other things I did initially is I always had something hanging off of my wide format printer for people to see. Another thing that I do is I try to run, it goes back to a theory I learned years ago when I managed a convenience store. And they always told us what we knew what our rush times were. And they always told us to make popcorn right before the rush. So the same thing I do with print. If I've got a big job going, I'm going to run that baby right when I know there's going to be a ton of Amazon people in line at my store, because while they'll start looking. All of my print equipment is up front, um, and yeah, Beth is exactly right. Most people do not know we're printing. We do print. I've done direct mail pieces with the samples to businesses all around me. I searched a 1 mile radius. I actually went on the chamber website and got most of the business names and addresses and did direct mail pieces to them. I found usually that when I tried to call on businesses, they weren't very receptive. And just like you and I, if they're busy in their jobs, they really don't want to talk to salespeople. Um, so I tried to leave folders behind with examples. I did mailers to them, but probably the biggest thing is talking to the customers when they're at the counter. I pay attention if they're doing a drop off or doing a shipment from a business, and I start talking about print. Oh, did you know we do this and we do, and this is where training your staff really comes in helpful, by having those staff members participate in the print projects and letting them do that and letting them learn. They will become your advocates, because if they don't understand how to do it and it's kind of like a foreign thing to them, they don't want to say anything at the counter because they feel stupid because they don't know how to answer questions. So they're not
Yeah,
going to
that's
promote it for you. If they're involved
correct.
in the process from creation, and then they learn quickly. One of the first things any new employee in my store does is learn how to make their own business cards, um, from start to finish. Um, and once they feel, then they'll sell it for you. Um, so having samples up in the store, talking to your customers. I've built some of my biggest print customers from Amazon drop-offs. I have a local private college. The guy was doing drop-offs. He had no idea that we did any of this print work. I started talking to him. I expressed the confidence in what we could do, started showing him samples. Sitting on my counter is a file folder that's got samples of every kind of print we do. I start showing, and customers are smart. They can detect if they feel if you've got confidence in your work or don't. And once they sense that confidence, then they'll listen to you. If they think that you're not really confident or not really sure or don't, they're not going to take a chance with you. But if you can express that confidence because you've done all of this stuff, then they're going to listen to you. And remember, print is about solving a problem for a customer. It's not, they expect quality no matter where they would go. They expect a fair price. They expect speed, but so where you can differentiate yourself is that confidence level and showing them, because most of them would rather do business with a local business person to begin with, um, especially if they own a small business themselves. And my staff could probably repeat my speeches. We're a small business too. We completely understand. We specialize in small business work to help you grow. We understand that you don't need 5,000 of this flyer, that you may only need 20 of this flyer for right now until your business grows. We want to be your partner, and we don't care if it's a small order. We'll take care of you, and then as your business grows, we'll grow with you. And once they get that feeling, it goes a long way. Now, the other thing I will say that we do to help us grow more is I do Google AdWords that are print focused only, and it's to people who are searching within a 1 mile of my store. So if somebody is at in their car or whatever, and they're looking for a FedEx office, my store is going to pop up on their screen. That's called conquesting. Or if they're searching for a Staples, or they search anything print related, pretty much, it's paid advertising, but our store is going to pop up on their screen because, as I said, most people do not know we print. And so I promote it. Now, one of the other things that I do is I have an A-frame sitting at my front door, and I downloaded the Marketing Help Center has a whole series of A-frame signs that I downloaded. They're all designed the same. One of them says the business card store. One says the construction plan store. All the different kind of print services that we do. And we rotate those out. So when a customer is walking through my front door, there's an A-frame sitting out there promoting our print services.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Got it.
And again, like I said in the beginning, once you start to build those customers, our print grows every year. During COVID, when most stores' print was in the tank, my print rose 40% year over year because I targeted restaurants and things like that needed a lot of specialty printing. They needed black and white menus. They needed signage, for different things about face coverings and all kinds of things. And we targeted that, and we grew our print a ton during COVID. And matter of fact, that built such lasting relationships. I still have a lot of those people still come to me for print now. It's been 3 years? Yeah, 3 or 4 years later.
Okay.
Hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions before we end our meeting? All right. Well, I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. Like I said, feel free to email me with any questions. I'm sure there's things that you'll think of. But just remember, almost anything you want to do in Adobe, there are free tutorials and there are examples, and you can pretty much figure out. And if you're like me,